Hear stories of how businesses grow and scale. I'm Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media and the host of this podcast. Now, let's jump right into this week's interview. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is Jay Haleem, an award-winning commercial photographer, three-time author, business coach, and corporate trainer. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about how you do all these things and what your passions are. Tell us about that.
Oh man, so I fell into all these things. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So a little bit about me. I'm from Newark, New Jersey originally. Grew up in the crack era. Everybody tells they rap about now and make songs about. I
Hmm.
actually grew up in that and had that type of family. All the adults in my household except for one was strung out on drugs. And so, I turned to selling drugs. Did that through, high school, streets out of high school into college, became a felon. And then I went ahead on into entrepreneurship, even though I graduated college, but I couldn't get a job. And so, did business for a while, moved away from South Carolina and went to DC, a little bit more affluent, a little bit more forgiving. But when the economy went bad, came back to South Carolina. I was in the entertainment industry a little bit when I was in DC, but there was not no entertainment in South Carolina, but I did have a camera. And
Hmm.
so I was taking pictures at my church, but I, found out my wife is pregnant with my son and we needed money. So I went to sell my camera, sold it to my pastor. He gave it back to me 2 weeks later and said he wanted me to do something with it. And I just took that as a sign for me to take it seriously. So I became a photographer and then becoming a corporate and commercial and all that other stuff. I just was a businessman prior to that, and I just said, hey, let me go at it different than everybody else. Let me not look at weddings. Let me not look at taking pictures of families and all that other stuff. So I went the corporate route. I started networking differently. Started doing government contracting.
Mm.
Found out that the government gives out $400 million a year to photographers. The federal government that doesn't
Really?
include local government. So just started learning how to do the business, did some forensic work, started working with law firms, doing casework for law firms. And so that's
Got it.
how my business grew as far as that's concerned. And then it just became a full-fledged media company where we started filming and then we started producing our own content in-house. And so this is where we are now. I became a coach and a trainer because I definitely wanted to teach other individuals. When I would be at these government workshops and conferences that my company will be shooting, we'll be there filming for 5 and 6 hours, listening to them give so much great information about how a business owner can do business with the federal government or the local government or airports. And it's not a lot of business owners there, and definitely not a lot of minorities at these functions. And so I started being like the poster child of they would bring me around to different cities and saying, hey, well, this guy always has work. Why can't you do it? But they wasn't really doing what they need to do to get them in the room. So I created my company, I Won't Starve, was off my mantra and my brand, and basically teaching minorities and African Americans how to do business, become business owners, and also do business with local and city and state government.
So
And
what
so
should
we did that.
someone So Jay, let me ask you, what should a business owner, small business owner, in particular know about getting government contracts? Like how does that even work?
Oh, okay. So I mean, you got to be in it to win it. So they're gonna keep telling you to get certified, get certified, get certified. That's the scary part to everybody, but it's really not that big of a deal. Once you get certified with your local certifications, and then you start getting state certifications and federal like DOT, like working with SBA, those type of things, 8A certifications, then that gets you in the game. It doesn't get you work, it just gets you in the game. But then you have to attend these functions because if they don't know you, they're not going to reach out to you. So sometimes it's not getting directly to SBA or the airport. Sometimes it's getting to you're going to be there with the prime contractors who already got contracts, who's been working with the government for 10, 15, 20 years, and you make a
Mhm.
relationship with them. And once you have a relationship with them, then you can start building your way up the ladder. But most of the time, what people think is that once they get certified, somebody's going to look through this database of 200,000 certified business owners, and they're going to look to try to call you. That's never going to happen. If you're not in the room, or around them, or somebody they can't refer you real fast, they're never going to give you the business.
Hmm. So very cool. So what are some, so once you get the contract, what are you doing? You're bidding on it. You're saying, look, my prices are going to be X amount and it'll be competitive. And then what do? You get referred out to different like situations, cases, like like where do you take photos? Like of what?
Oh, so for me, I've shot for the airports. So we've done the airports. All the airports have events that they have every year on the calendars. They have things like here they have fly-ins. Basically, fly-ins is teaching people how to do business with the airport, how you go and get certified. And so sometimes they do like a little tour. So you'll have, let's say you have 4 airports in your state or 10 airports in your state. They'll all work together and they'll go. One day it'll be in LAX, next day it'll probably be at SFO, and the next time it'll be at this airport. And so for me, I've toured. I'm in South Carolina now. I'm actually transitioning to Vegas, but in South Carolina, it's not an airport I haven't worked with, as well as Atlanta Airport and Charlotte Airport. But they would do the fly-ins in different places. Then, of course, they need headshots. They need documentation for situations like that. So when they're doing these projects, they might have a big construction project where they're putting a new wing on the airport. They pay for that. They have to document that via film or photography. So it's a lot that the government pays for. Now with the drone work, they have a lot of drone work. If you got 30 acres of land that they're about to do something with, how do you document that? Somebody's going to put a drone and fly a drone all across these 30 acres and give them the information and things that they need. They're not just going to pay for a helicopter to ride over it. Somebody with a drone is going to be getting that information and that footage for them so that they can document it.
That's really interesting. I never thought of that. Like there are government databases, right? Like where you can go in, like bid on contracts. So what do you
Definitely.
like? Do you teach people how to kind of like take advantage and build a business upon government contracts, or what's the focus there?
Well, the first thing for me was just getting people into business, because a lot of people are afraid to go into business. And then I started bringing them into the government space because sometimes the government doesn't work with people. Sometimes it's better to work with private entities, not public entities. It just all depends on what type of business you're trying to run. The government worked out for me tremendously because, again, photography is taboo. Nowadays, they're trying to make cell phones that replace photography and videography. But however, when you start working for law firms, you can't take pictures with a phone. That's like a criminal case, but that's still taboo. Taking pictures with a cell phone because it's too easily doctored. And so they want someone who actually a professional, that it's a little bit harder for you to tamper with the images. So it made sense for me. But if you have a company that is better, I try to teach people what's best for them. But government, if you want to get a company that you got 5-year contracts and get 3 opportunities to re-up them 5 years or and things like that, you want a little bit more stability. Government contracting can be the way. They'll keep you long as you didn't steal anything or really, really mess up. But somebody in the
Right.
private sector can be like, hey, well, we're downsizing. We're about to make this other move and leave you alone. But the government going to keep paying you as long as the government is still open. They're going to keep paying you for the next 10, 15 years if that's how much your contract is. So it just all depends on what type of business. Sometimes it sucks. Some businesses, they're not jumping or oversaturated with those. And you're like, okay, well, I probably can get better work dealing with the private sector, but it just all depends.
That's really interesting. So how did you get to the point where, like, so if you want to meet, so this is really interesting for me because there's some similarities to kind of like what I've tried in the past because so we're an advertising company.
Mm-hmm.
We don't create content. We buy advertising space. And
Okay.
the interesting part is I've been interested in working with people who have, who are sellers essentially. And when you go into the marketplace and you say, "Hey, I want to help people become business owners. I want people to learn what I've learned." How do you go about getting these speaking engagements to kind of impact the people who you want to impact?
Okay, well, for me, what I do now, I just go to the same people I work for as a photographer, because at the end of the day, I become a poster child. What happened was I would go to these functions, and I immediately went to the city where I'm located, and I talked to them. I said, "Well, you guys don't have a lot of people at your functions. I said, I can actually get some people in the room. And I told them what I can do, and they gave me a shot. They didn't invest at first. I just had to show them what I can do. I packed out a room for them, and they had a bunch of people to choose from to do business with them. And then after that, they partnered with me. So it's about partnerships. You have to find people who you benefit, who you can benefit immediately. They needed someone like me because a lot of people didn't believe in what they were trying to offer. And if somebody like me can say, I've taken every class, I've participated in everything, and I've made money off of them, then they say, okay, well, I'll try it because he said it worked, and I see he's doing well. And so that was my way of doing it, and it made sense. And I started seeing other cities and other municipalities started calling me and say, hey, can you come speak to our contractors? Can you come do this with our contractors? And then it started being contracted with them to consult because another thing about government contracting is, you have a PR portion of it. I'm not a PR. I'm not in PR, but so they don't have to go to PR and get themselves in trouble. A lot of times they don't know how to deal with contractors because you might have a predominantly white construction company that's a prime with predominantly minority subs. And so now, as soon as somebody don't get a bid, they saying, "Hey, it was a racist thing," and they don't know that they didn't do the bid properly. They didn't go through the proper channels. They didn't conduct themselves right. It's just a whole bunch of things. But I've done it successfully plenty of times, so I was able to help other people do it, keep people out of the news.
Wow. So that's really interesting. So how long have you been like with your business journey, right? Like, do you focus in on your business of taking photography? Do you focus in on helping with contractors? Like, what's the sort of like how does your business change over the years? Tell us about that.
Oh wow, it's changed tremendously. I mean, I don't take pictures as much as I used to. Almost not at all. As much. I mean, if it's a big job, then yes, I'm doing it. But most of the time, once I wrote my books, I've been speaking and training, the most. Because again, you kind of price yourself out of the out of it. As I keep my price start going up and up. There's a whole lot more photographers that'll do it for less than what I would, and so they can slide somebody in there, and which is fine. I still, teach, but we've become a more of a media company where we produce our own products. Right now, between me with 3 books over the last 2 years, and then my daughter has written 2 books, and my daughter just spoke to 11,000 students about anti-bullying yesterday.
Wow.
So we're really pushing her. I literally just got boxes of books that just delivered from her because someone just ordered 600 books from her. So we're producing our own content, our own materials and things of that nature from classes, from trainings, books, and things of that. So we've been doing a lot of that, especially since the pandemic happened. We had to pivot. I couldn't go out and shoot nowhere. I was teaching my class, my You Won't Starve entrepreneur development workshop, but then I wrote it in a book because I couldn't go out and teach it anywhere. I wrote a book called You Won't Starve. So and then that actually made the most money for me last year in 2020 once I wrote that book because it's a training manual. So that was just one of those pivots. So once that went out, I'm traveling now doing trainings all the time, teaching about, my strategy.
So tell us about the book You Won't Starve.
That's my second baby.
I Won't Starve. Sorry.
No, 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 no. You Won't Starve and I Won't
Oh,
Starve, both of them. I Won't Starve is my first one, and You Won't Starve is the second one. I Won't Starve is about me. That was
okay.
my
Tell me.
path. As I told you, I became a felon in college here in South Carolina, and I came back to South Carolina about 8 years later after I graduated, and we had to start all over again from scratch. And so starting all over again for a felon means me working an $8 an hour job, even though I've been in business for years. I know a lot, but they still treated you that way. And so working an $8 an hour job while I'm taking photos and trying to figure it out. I did that for a year, but then I left the job, and everybody was saying, "Hey, man, you were just getting on your feet. Why would you leave?" And I just said, I won't starve. And I knew that I was destined for more. I was destined for more. And I believe that I can do it. I created enough of a platform for myself that I would never have to go back or worry about a job. And I haven't been back to work since. You Won't Starve was something that I was doing. I was teaching this on YouTube about 7, 8 years ago, but it wasn't getting that type of traction. But it was perfect timing when I started doing my training. The same principles that I use with my business, and that's hustling while you work, which I just talked about. Doing business on your own level, because I'm around a lot of government entities, SBDC, SBA. Everybody's talking about having $10,000 in the bank, 15, 20,000. People I deal with don't have no money in the bank, or 500, or they're last, and they're trying to figure it out. And that was me. You got a gift, you got a talent. I show you how to monetize it. And then with market research, and then my networking, I call it being the cheese. It was something that I heard from Gary Vaynerchuk years ago, because he's a wine connoisseur. He was talking about wine, but I kind of took it and ran with it. I always mention that. That was the first time I heard it. But it was about networking, putting yourself in rooms where nobody is your competition, everybody is your client or potential client. And so that's what that's about. And then learning about strategic partnerships and alliances. A lot of people think partnership is a marriage. I hear a lot of people say it's a marriage. It's a marriage. No, partnership is for you align yourself with individuals so that you can execute. It can just be for that one deal. It don't have to be for 200 deals. But getting with the people that's going to help you get to your objectives, and that's what I've been able to do. So I teach people how to do that.
And
You won't start.
there's different types of partnerships you need at different levels of your business or parts of your business,
Definitely,
and you're
definitely.
not married to them, and you have to earn the business every day with good service, good outcomes, efficiencies, the whole thing.
Yes, and that's the thing. We get stuck because you grow out of some partnerships, and you're not stuck. I mean, certain people who helped me in 2017 with I Won't Starve, I can't use them now, and they can't use me now. We've done what we needed to do with each other, and that's okay. It's not no hard feelings. They don't feel a way about me. I don't feel a way about them. But that alliance it's not strategic. It's nothing strategic about it, because it's not no. You can't get you to it the desired end, and people don't know when to let go.
So that's really interesting. Yeah, in our experience, like in the very early parts of my business, I was using an accountant who was good for me personally for like a decade. But once our business grew to a certain size, we had to switch to a different bookkeeper, because it just was a different type of business with different needs, and we needed someone with experience in those types of needs. So I've definitely experienced that along the way. So I mean, is your book literally taking someone who like has no business experience but knows they need to earn some money? Like that's a big ask. Like that's a big burden to carry.
Well, it doesn't have to be. See, my book, You Won't Starve, we broke it down into three different generations. So the Gen Z, the Millennials, and baby boomers. So let's take a baby boomer who has all the knowledge. They've been working for 30 years doing one thing. They're a born consultant.
Mm.
However, they just don't know how to run a business. Nobody has more knowledge than them, but it's just they don't know how to run a business. They spent 30 years someone telling them to do this, and then they're making the money and they're getting a paycheck. Now they don't know that they can go right out of there and go across the street to their competitor and consult for another six figures for that year. And
Okay, so
the
that's
fact,
boomers.
yeah, that's a boomer. Well, millennials again. A lot of millennials got jumped out. They jumped out the window. They went to college, got into this career. They're 10, 15 years into the career, and now millennials are about passion. I want to do what I'm passionate about. I want to do what I'm excited about, and you want to make a shift. But you got two kids, you got the house with a mortgage, you got a nice car, and you don't want to leave this job. How do you successfully, as I said in the beginning, the first principle, hustle while you work? How do you successfully do that? How do you successfully start right there where you are, use the skills and the talents that you've already acquired to move forward? What does your market research look like as a millennial? It looks completely different. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. You have learned something. You have made acquaintances in the 10 to 15 years that you've been working in the job space. So you have to think like that. You actually can find out better where can you be the cheese? Where could you put yourself at where nobody will be your competition? Everybody's a potential customer.
That's really interesting. That's more or less exactly what I did. I worked in advertising for 10 years, started my business, and I said, "All right, now we're going to figure it out." It was hard. It took me a couple years to really figure it out. But yeah, I started off with relationships, and frankly, relationships and is the part that makes keeps our business afloat for so many years, and
It's
referrals
so
still keeps our business afloat.
it's so amazing, and you just have to remind people of that. Again, I tell you, I was a felon. I just got pardoned this year in
Mm,
2021.
congrats.
Thank you. You know, when you're talking to someone who was probably like a kingpin drug dealer, trust me, they act like they never made a bunch of money when it's time to talk about doing business because it doesn't compute, and you just had to teach them the language. You have to teach them the language. It's like you're not starting from the beginning.
Right.
You're starting from experience. If you know how to make money and to get to that level, you actually had to have some intelligence, but you just got to know how to talk to the right people and get around the right people and have a bit of patience. As you said, it doesn't happen overnight. But for me, when I was shooting, I had to do the weddings and stuff, to pay the bills. But once I got a chance to shoot a law firm, I said, "Oh, I love this." I didn't have to roll all over on the floor, do all this crazy stuff. We were just there, shot these people. They were ready to go anyway. They were like, "Hey, I got a deposition. Let me go." Boom, got two
Right.
people out. They leave. I got $1,000. I was done before lunch.
It's
I
funny.
said,
There's
"This is
there's a
it."
meme there's a meme going around where it's like the $500 client has like a big old list of demands. The $5,000 client says, "Cool, thanks. See you in a month."
It's perfect, and that's a perfect example. I said, "This is where I need to be," and literally the next month, I got an office right smack downtown where all the businesses and started passing out flyers and putting brochures in these law offices. And then, I went to a city function. They had, as a matter of fact, it was a DOT function that they had, and again, it was no photographers there. It was like, why are you here? You're not a construction company. You don't have a commercial cleaning business. You don't have this type of business. But I booked 7 headshot sessions from those businesses that were there that first day. So it just started working, and people would say, "Hey, well, who did your headshot?" And it'll be they're sending this stuff to DOT or to SBA, and they're like, "Well, who did your headshot?" Well, this guy here, is he certified? Well, no, but I'm gonna get certified. So now it's, "Hey, you certified? Could you come over and do this for us?" So it
Right.
was just that type of thing.
Once you start hanging around in certain circles and certain networks, you understand what needs to happen so you can get more work, right? If you're never in
Yeah.
those circles, you'll never know you need to be certified, and you'll always be on the outside because you'd never have that one really important conversation with someone.
Whatever they told me to do, I did it like
Right.
immediately. If they told me it cost $200 for something, I did it. I figured out a way. I did it. If I had to take a class, if I had to be somewhere on a Saturday or evening, I was there. And that's what we don't want to do, because someone gave us money without doing all of that work, and so we don't forget that part. We forget that part. But this money lasts. This quadruple where
Right.
somebody was paying me $1,000 for, I was getting $3,000 and $4,000 for. So you want to go through that little bit of hard work so that you can be okay. I mean, the process is hard, but it's worth it.
I think the mindset. Do you talk about mindset in your books? Because I think that's such an
Definitely.
important like component here. Like someone says, "Look, it's going to cost $200 to do something," they'll be like, "I don't want to do it because it cost me $200." Meanwhile, the entrepreneur says that $200 is going to lead me to thousands of dollars.
And that's all I talk about, and that's where it starts with your mindset. My wife and I, we used to laugh about this because we would eat out a lot, and I would say I buy anything that I need to buy for my business now because I remember it was a time I used to spend $250 a week eating out. And so that's $1,000 a month. So anything that I need that costs a couple of dollars, I pay for because I remember wasting that type of money. And it was just a mindset. It's still money, but this is money that's can make me more money, can put me in a room that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to go into. And so I definitely do that. And I lead by example by saying, "Hey, invest in yourself. That's the only way you're going to get past the other individuals. You're always going to find enough people who are not willing to invest in themselves. So
And that's such a
when you do
shame. And
that."
that is such a shame, even with business owners. There are business owners,
Yeah,
and look, I get it. Like, there's a philosophy, right? When you're a startup, cost is everything. The less you spend on startup costs, the more runway you have to figure it out, right? So I totally get that. Then there's a
that's what they
shift.
say.
Say what?
So that's what they say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been there too. It's like questioning every penny that I spend. It's like, like I'm not, money's not coming in. I still have to pay rent. Like I don't have a salary. But then there comes a shift that I think every entrepreneur has to recognize. That's like, no, that $10 at $100 at $1,000 is going to save you like $5,000 worth of time, which you can then use to spend to like get more business, right?
Yeah,
Like, don't spend your time building a website. Have someone else do that who knows what they're doing. It'll cost you a
yes.
couple $100. Go out and like attend the event instead of building your website that you don't know how to do anyway.
And that's the funny part for me. The reason why I said what I said was because it's a part that's left off of there. You don't have to spend any money when you start, but you're going to have to replace the money with time and effort. And a lot of people don't want to put that time and effort in. So if you don't want to put $500 up, are you going to put the time and effort in to make up for that money? And a lot of time that's not the case, And with social media, it makes people think that you can do something for free, which the people who are really winning is spending $1,000 a day, $700 a day
Sure.
advertising on social media. When you tell certain people that, it's mind boggling. But the biggest thing I tell people all the time, I say, you want to make $100,000 a year? They say, yes. I said, well, spend $10,000 in your business.
Legit.
And they get quiet about that. I like, but that's not robbery. That's fair trade. If you invest $10,000 in your business this year, you're probably going to get 100,000 or
If
at
you have the
least
right
80.
ingredients. If you have the right ingredients. If you don't have like the person who's unwilling to spend that money, like I get it. $10,000 is a ton of money for a lot of people, especially people who are, the challenge is if you're used to having everything covered by your business, all the like when you travel, all the expenses on all these things, having to outlay $10,000 for yourself seems like a big deal, especially if you only
Mm-hmm.
have $500 in the bank or whatever, right? You got to level up to get to that point. But I think some of those people don't actually believe in themselves.
I agree. I agree. And also, we're not teaching business like we used to. I went to school for business. I've been in business for years, and we always was taught to have advertising budget, have a marketing budget. You have to reinvest in your company. That's the fastest way for you to grow. Exponentially is reinvesting, and that's what I try to tell people. It's like if you really want to see your business grow, everything you made or that you have to spare, put it back into the business, and
100%.
you'll see it'll grow so much faster. And once you get that mindset, as you said earlier, then they'll start to see it. I mean, 5 years ago, I put $30,000 back into my business, and I went and got a building and got more equipment, more cameras, and we went from doing $1,000 jobs to $10,000 jobs because you went from 2 cameras to 6 cameras. You can actually now we can do a whole bunch more at that point. So that was a different situation. Like, okay, when I got 6 cameras, what can I do with 6 cameras? You
How did
know,
you feel? How did you feel getting that building and spending that $30,000? Were you like, was it like scary or were you excited?
No, it wasn't scary because I had a commercial cleaning business when I first graduated college, and I didn't invest in that business, and I kicked myself in the behind for years about that because I didn't never reinvest in my company. I partied in my 20s. I partied
Well, yeah,
hard. I
legit.
had a blast. I would get. I had every Ann Taylor women's store. We cleaned every Ann Taylor women's store from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, to Virginia Beach, Virginia. And so
Nice.
at 25, 26 years old, getting those checks monthly,
Yeah.
you're like, me and my wife, we're traveling. She's, Louis Vuitton bags and this and that. And I'm like, that was another truck. That was another carpet machine. That was, all these things I could have been putting into.
Right.
And so being older now, I was just like, oh, nah, put that back into the business. And, when the pandemic hit, I got a 3,000 square foot building where people was able to use my building when they didn't have any place else to go. And then, we had like people using it for like virtual camps. And so we have enough spaces for where the teachers can be in different offices and running a virtual camp doing different things. And then we did a virtual learning pod in our office space for kids, for parents who couldn't send their kids to school, but they still had to go to work. So they brought them here. And that was the investment that carried us through the pandemic. And we made that investment 4 years prior to. So it was just those type of things.
So are you saying, so you really dramatically pivoted during the pandemic?
Oh yeah. Because I mean, being out, I literally just got finished shooting the Super Bowl. Um,
You shot the
and
Super Bowl?
yeah, the Super Bowl with the 49ers and the Chiefs.
Nice.
Yeah, so
That must have been fun. Are you a football fan?
I'm a Niners fan. I don't know if you can see the pictures with me and the Niners.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
I didn't put the Chiefs up there because I'm a fan of the Niners and they beat my team, so I'm still kind of salty. But I have pictures with them as well.
That's funny.
But no, yeah, I just got finished shooting the Super Bowl, and then I was kind of doing a dual thing because I was having a major event that March. I was having an event called the Perfect Partnership, basically teaching individuals. I was bringing government entities from all around the Southeast to one place and bringing business owners there so they can actually teach them how to make this partnership. And we're going to do it again in 2022. But we had to cancel prior to the pandemic. So I was kind of doing a dual thing. But once you couldn't go out like that, the government shut down. Nobody wasn't getting new headshots or having no events. They're still doing the virtual events right now.
Right.
So the events my company would have been contracted to film or to shoot, they're doing those virtually.
Right. That's
And
fascinating.
so
So you
yeah.
you used your space to give students and teachers the ability to kind of be separated and
Mm-hmm.
also do what they need to do outside of their home.
Yep.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. So, as we wrap up here in the next few minutes, what are you focusing on for the next 12 to 18 months?
Oh man, so the next 12 to 18 months is just building up the media company from a production space, continuously producing more content. I'm going to put out another book next year. My daughter has a series, so she already has two, but she'll have a third one out next year. And my goal in the next 2 years to be a full-time, investor. That's my goal. I don't want to do the climb to the ladder entrepreneurial piece like that. I'd rather teach. That's why I became certified as a coach, certified as a trainer, and I've been doing this since I was a kid. I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I got pushed in a little faster than I hope, and
Right.
it's been a lot. But I've been able to be successful. But I understand it, and I can help people get over those humps faster than I was because I was trailblazing. And for the people that for around me, I didn't have nobody that was in front of me to teach me how to do what I did. But I see a lot of people still teaching individuals incorrectly. People are telling people that intentional self-employment is entrepreneurship, and it's not.
Then
Entrepreneurship is. Go
what are
ahead.
people doing? What are people doing then? Like they're just sitting at home and calling it entrepreneurship or what?
Yeah, because what happens? People just firing their boss. They're not really entrepreneurs. They're just saying, I don't want to work for somebody. And so, as a photographer, I was an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur in a space when I started growing an actual business where I had to put other people in position, so that they can win and I'm taking care of other people's households and other people's families. And then also providing a service that affects your community. See, they don't understand that people do the research and the data and see, well, how is the entrepreneurial climate in this space, and they decide whether they're going to put a business there or some other type of entity, a school or something else like that. And somebody just saying, "Hey, I'm good at social media, and I'm going to do a bunch of social media clicks for you myself or ads for you myself." That's not entrepreneurship. You're self-employed, and that's okay. But entrepreneurship is not selfish. It's selfless. We go through when they got to get paid before we get paid. I've been there. Government, you get paid. Your first check don't come for 60 days sometimes. So that's 4 pay periods. So this is why contractors don't know how to get money, don't know how to work with factoring companies, don't know how to bid and ask for advance money for them to cover payroll for the next, for the first 60 days to float them. They don't know that type of stuff because that's real business. It's not about the money. It's a working situation that you can affect your community and affect what's going on, and then you can actually grow to sell. I grew up in you build a business so that you can get rid of it.
I like that. Entrepreneurship is not selfish, it's selfless.
Yes.
I like that. How can people find you?
Everything is www.jhaleem.com. I am J Haleem on all my social media platforms. You can find my books. My babies, the other one, Morning Motivation. This is the latest one. Came out May 29th this year. This was something again through the pandemic. I was doing videos every morning for 150 mornings straight. I did a morning motivation video. I
Mm.
couldn't sustain it, so we put it in the book. And but yeah, so you find the books. You see, we have conferences coming up. I have a conference coming up in Vegas in April 23rd. The I Won't Starve experience that's coming up in Vegas, and then I have another entrepreneur development, the You Won't Starve one, February 5th. That's virtual. So yeah, all that stuff is on the website.
Very cool. Jay Haleem, award-winning photographer, author, business coach, and corporate trainer. Thanks for being with us today.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.